good evening, happy one time. Today, God is good, and God is good all the time. My name is Sermon J. Spirit of I may give you a little short news and a word on today. Um, I just want to show you my new product, a planner. See how beautiful that is? And it's pretty much, you can have, like you have planning an event. I have much, um, empty notes where you can fill in if you're doing an event, so it's pretty much a real nice planner if you're doing events for parties, weddings, or whatever event that you're doing. Is good to keep record of it. I have plenty of notepad, notepad up in here that we can take notes and events and everything else on here. So I also want to talk about Mike Johnson, our new speaker. You know, the Stopgap funding plan, have been unveiled. The Stopgap funding plan to prevent government shutdown from to January 19th to February the 2nd of 2024. Proposed two-step bill. No spending reduction and no border security. It's not including spending cuts. So it has not requested funds for Ukraine and Israel. Because President Bennett always supporting, both countries, with the weapons and releasing the hostages. So now this bill will stop the holiday tradition loading of spending bills introduced right before Christmas. So now on spending reduction. Now he said this was one of them. Now it will not work because when they have to pay something like the weapons for Ukraine, like the hostages, they will have to pay. They will have to cut the price down. Because they won't be able to pay the whole amount. Since the bill it will be reduction cut down. So now his other request was no border security. So that would not work either. Because we need security at the border. You can't cut down on security. But you cannot have no security because we need security at the border. And so we may have to do some cuts. Now he did not including that. So when things get tight, we might have to cut down on some things, but he have not included that in. So you have not requested funds for both Ukraine and Israel, and we support both countries, so we have to have funds for Ukraine and Israel, on the bill. So this bill is pretty much not complete because the main things you pretty much need to have on this bill. So our opposition and vote against this bill, stopgap funding plan, because we need funds, for Ukraine and Israel. We need to include, cutting rate because if things get tight, we might have to do some cutting. We need security at the border. So we have to go back in and try to redo this bill. If President Bennett accepted, and he might sign up on it. So we'll see how this will go. So I do have a word for you on today. So the boy Jesus is at the temple. He's a good teenager now. I think he's like 14 years old on here. So Luke chapter 2, 39-52. So when Joseph and Mary, and it's pretty much the thing that I'm getting at, how Jesus gonna be hungry for that word. It's something on him. Know that there's more for him to be doing. So he's so eager and hungry to learn this word. And so when Joseph and Mary had done everything required by the law of the Lord, they returned to Galilee to their own town of Nazareth. So after they had finished everything, they went to their own home. So after they finished everything, they was ready to go back to their own city. So the child had grew, had become strong. Now he was filled with wisdom and the grace of God that was on him. So God was on him his whole time. You know, while he was on earth. God also gave him wisdom, intelligence. So he was a boy, was smart. He was real smart as a boy. So Jesus had grew in a God man developed, the perfect and senseless Son of God. Now, because the Son of Man and grew, physical and every other way that human developed. So he was down here. He was down here before. And God sent him back down here as a baby. Sent that seed down here as a baby. You know. So every year Jesus' parents had went to Jerusalem for this festival, Passover. And they did this every year. So the law of the master would require the attendance of all males at 3 festivals, Passover, also for women as well, in this every year. And they did this every year. So when he was 12 years old, they went to the festival according to the custom. According to God's law, every Jew's male, required to go to Jerusalem 3 times a year, for the great festival. So remember when God had rescued the Israelites. Before Pharaoh let them go, God had them, God had Pharaoh to let them go, for a certain while, cause God had to learn them about the festival. So they had to have the festival. They had to have the sacrifice and everything else they had to do before they went to their promised land. So in the spring of the Passover was celebrating, follow the festival of the unleavened bread. So after the festival was over, while his parents was returning home, Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, and they were unaware of it. We don't know how they was unaware that they had a child with them, and so they ready to leave, but not aware that the child was not with them. So when returning, Mary and Joseph had lost track of Jesus, assuming, he is with others in their large group. Now, once they realized he is missing, we may not understand how a parent gonna leave a town, knowing you went there with a child, and you just went to another, city, and not realizing that you don't have your son. We ain't gonna understand that part there. But Mary could leave the city without Jesus, but let alone not realize he is missing for an entire day. So a whole day, they did not realize. They realized until the end of the day. You see, the whole day they didn't realize Jesus was gone. So thinking he was in their company, they traveled on for a day. So then they begin looking for him among their relatives and friends. So Mary and Joseph don't realize he remained in the temple in Jerusalem until the end of the day. The journey, Mary and Joseph start looking for Jesus. And when they stopped traveling for the night, so when they did not find him, they went back to Jerusalem to look for him. That should have been the first place they went to. Jesus was considered awesome adult, but the parents were still concerned. No matter how, if you have your children with you and they're a teenager, you still gonna be concerned. Okay, I came here with you. I'm still concerned, that you got to come with me, because no matter if you go with your parent and you decide, just because you a teenager, you decide you want to, you still got to let the parent know. Because if you came there with your parent and you're not with them, we still concerned. So after the days, they had found him in a temple court, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. This is a teenager. He was like 14 years old. He hungry for that word. He know it's by time. Something like over me. Knowing it's something else I got to be doing. I'm supposed to be doing this. And so he learned. He had the elders there. Talking about some of the stuff that Moses wrote down. And he there listening and asking questions. And this was a 14-year-old boy. Listening and asking questions. So now they found him after 3 days. So it took them 3 days. Took them 3 days to find Jesus. So Coleman discussing the scriptures with the teachers in the temple. So they're discussing the scriptures. All the stuff that Moses had wrote down. You know, he also was asking questions. He was very concerned. He was eager and hungry to learn, what Moses had wrote down. So everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. So he was a boy, a teenager, very smart, very intelligent, asking questions that no one else be asking. That no one else is not concerned about what they was talking about. It seemed like he had a discernment and he was asking questions with intelligence. So when his parent had saw him, there was astonished, and his mother had said to him, "Son, why you treated us like this here? Your father and I have were very scared. That you was missing. So we were searching for you. So why you treat us like this, and all the while you still right here? So Mary had released her child and let him grow up, allowing him, to his role as God's son, the Messiah. So now she had to realize, because remember, God had placed that seed in Mary. Mary had birthed Jesus. Mary raised Jesus. Okay, so now, she remember the angels told her that before Jesus was born. Told her what kind of child this gonna be. And so now she realized, okay, he's not my child no more. Okay, this is a God child. So now it's time for me to release him. She known, he was gonna be temporary in her presence. Temporary in her presence. So now she said, okay, it's about time for me to release him. Let him go on his mission. Let him go do what God had asked him to do. So his role as God's son, the Messiah, fearful, that she hadn't been careful enough with his God had given child. She searched for him, but was looking for a boy, not a young man who was in the temple. Remember, you're a teenager, So she was looking for a boy. She still realized this is a boy. This is my baby. And then realize you have a young man who was in the temple, reading and learning about that word. Eager, hungry, to learn that word. So why were you searching for me? So Jesus said, why did you searching for me? You asked, so did you know I had to be in my father's house? That's what I'm saying. He had something over him. Remember, he had God in him. God's spirit was in Jesus. I had to be in my father's house. I got to learn my father's words, his rules and regulations. So why are you searching? Why are you getting all bent up out of shape, woman? I had to be in my father's house. She had, so when he said that, the light bulb came on her, because all she was thinking about, this is my boy, this is my baby that I birthed. But now she realized, okay, this is what they told me about. So now it's that time to let him go. Let him go and do on his mission and do what he needs to do. She realized this is not my boy no more. This is a young man have a mission on his life. So we see the young Jesus was hungry, to learn his father's word and a life to live. Now he said that he must be in his father's house, learning and asking questions. But they did not understand what he was saying to them. Remember, he was Jews. So he was talking different kind of language. So the mother said, she said okay, but she said, I don't understand what he's saying. you know she said, but they did not understand what he was saying to them, probably because he was talking in different language. So Jesus' parents didn't understand what he meant, so they didn't understand what he meant about his father house. Okay, that's what they didn't understand. They didn't understand what you mean, your father house. So that's why she had realized, okay, this God child, the God placed this in me, because she was holding on to him so tight. This is my baby. She was holding on so tight, but she didn't understand, what you mean about your father house. Just your father standing right here. So as a teenager, he know God was his father. He knew God was his father, and his earthly father was standing right there. So that's when Mary had to realize, okay, I done raised him long enough. It's time for me to let him go. Now he know that this is his father's house. She didn't understand what you're talking about at first, because this your father right here. And this not his house. What you talking about, Jesus? So Jesus' parents didn't understand what he meant about his father's house. They didn't realize that he was making a distinction between his earthly father and his heavenly father. She knew God's child, but they didn't understand what he was saying to them. Like I said, he must have was saying in different language. But she didn't understand. She was trying to figure out, okay, this your earthly father right here. But now, you talking about your heavenly father. Who is your heavenly father? Talking about his house. So that's the part she got confused, because he started talking about heavenly father and his earthly father. This is young boy already know what's going on right now at a young age. So then he went down to Nazareth, with them, and he was obedient to them. He loved his earthly parents, and he was a well respectful child, but his mother treasured all these things in her heart. Now see, at the beginning, they told her what kind of child he was gonna be, but she didn't saw it. She didn't saw it until he spoke and said, "My heavenly Father house." That's when it dawned on her, okay, it's time for me to let him go. This boy know too much. And so all the stuff that Mary was learning, everything that she was sucking everything in, she plunged everything in her heart. She was putting everything in her heart, because she know it's gonna be the last time, not pretty much the last time, but it's gonna be the last time of her seeing her baby. He gonna be gone on the road, and he gonna be a young man. So we see that Jesus had grew up as a good child. Now he was obedient, he was smart, he was intelligent, and his mother treasured up all these things in her heart for memories. Because Jesus gonna be on the road. He not gonna be under his mother no more. So we see as Jesus, a young boy, he was hungry for his father's word. He was sitting among the elders, asking questions, wanted to know more, and that's how he was. He was a young boy, and he had God's spirit in him. So God's spirit was letting him know it's time it's time for you to do more. It's time for you to go do what I had needed you to do. And he wind up, and they wind up. And a lot of time, a lot of things might seem like a coincidence, but it's sometimes it don't be a coincidence. They went to the festival. And next thing you know, he's sitting with the elders, learning, asking questions. That was all at the right time. God always do things at a divine time. So that was divine time for him to be there in the midst of that festival, while he there with the elders, learn everything he needs to know, and asking questions. So the mother realized that God's son, that he is God's son, and he have a mission to go out. So the mother let him go to pursue his purpose. So God word, Jesus, was about 14 years old. So that's when he started going on his mission at 14 years old. And once he had stated, my father's house, the mama was kind of confused. Okay, your father's staying right here. This is not our house, because she raised him as her own child, but a blink of an eye, she had forgot, his earthly father is God who placed the baby in her. She wanted to hold on and cling to him so tight. But she knew eventually she was going to have to let him go. And he just was a boy. And he was eager and hungry to learn that word. And a lot of time you can feel something in you. You can feel like, that's more for you to do. Jesus felt like there was more for him to do. It was time for him to study. Time for him to learn, ask questions about everything that he needs to know before he go on his journey. So that was the story about Jesus the boy. He was hungry to learn that word. And he got so excited. You get so excited when you talk about the word. A lot of time when I'm talking to someone about the word, a whole hour had in the past. I said, "Oh Lord," And a lot of time you just get so involved. He got so involved with the elders, so he did not pay attention that his parents had left, and the parents didn't pay attention that the son had stood behind. Because you could get so caught up in that word. You can have so much joy in you when you're talking about that word, and you just keep going on and on. And so Jesus he wanted to learn so more, about it, and that's how Paul was. Before Paul went on his journey, he had to learn more about Jesus. Because he didn't want to go on this journey and then, talking about this and that, and they asking a question about Jesus. He didn't want to be like, I don't know. So he had to learn. And Jesus, so he started as a teenager, had to go all over the world as a missionary, So that's all the word and news. Oh, yeah, we talk about the news. By Mike Johnson, the new speaker. He came out with the bill. He came out with the Stopgap bill, funded. His bill was like no spending, no spending reduction, no border security. He did not include spending cuts. And so he did not include funds for Ukraine and Israel. And Mr. President Biden always support Ukraine and Israel, and they've been doing that for years. And for that not to be on the bill, he pretty much might have to look at the bill again and try to redo it. If not, who knows? Mr. Bennett might accept it and approve it and sign it. If not, he would have to go back to square one and come up with another bill. Because spending reduction, downsizing the price, he might have to pay to give out guns, to Iran. The price had to get cut down. We had to pay to get them hostages released, from Israel. And so and then the border. We need security at that border. We need security at the border. Now you can cut size it, but we need security at the border. So he might have to go back and look at this bill if Mr. President approve it. So that's all the news and the word I have for you on today. Y'all have a blessed, and I showed y'all my planner. Y'all have a blessed and safe day, and I see y'all on the next video.